So the caption on this video is why I considered divorcing my husband.
I've been with my husband for almost 20 years, but about 3 years ago, I was strongly considering divorce. And I want to talk to you about why. So I'm going to tell you the story of the day where I thought to myself, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. My husband and I had 4 kids. We both worked full time. We had been together for 16 years at this point. We've been together since high school. And on paper, I have an amazing husband. He is incredibly supportive. He's kind. He's loyal. He's a great dad. He's very hands-on. He's an active participant. He's always present. Like on paper, what else could I ask for?
I hate that term, on paper. It's just an excuse just to bitch about your husband. On paper, he's perfect, but...
But in reality, my experience is very similar to the experience of other women. I had this amazing husband who on paper was great, but I was incredibly frustrated and burnt out from our marriage and from motherhood. Because what happens to so many of us is that we marry these amazing men and we have amazing relationships.
I don't think that happens to many women.
I don't.
I don't think many women can relate to what she's saying necessarily because they don't marry amazing men and they have amazing relationships.
Great qualities who are also great dads.
Right, exactly. That's actually a lot more rare than she thinks. So she says, we have an amazing relationship. He's an amazing person.
And then we have kids. And when we have kids, women tend to carry a disproportionate amount of the work in the home, the work of raising kids, and the mental load. And
so this is Paige Connell, and that's her whole thing. Disproportionate amount of work distribution. That's like her whole brand, is just talking about that specific subject.
Okay.
And how to like resolve that issue. And she talks a lot about what she calls the mental load. So like this is her website here. She is a PaigeTurner.com because her name's Paige, of course. And so she has public speaking engagements. You can contact her if you want to get her on to your event or whatever. She has this press page where it shows all the times that her videos have been displayed in on the Today Show or the New York Times.
And that is exactly what happened to us. About 3 months after my 4th baby was born, I remember looking at my husband and saying, I need more. I need you to do more. I am exhausted. I am in charge of everyone and everything in this house. Every night when we cook dinner, you ask me what to make. Every day when you drop off the kids at daycare, you ask me what they need in their backpacks.
So to highlight what she's saying here, she says that every night when dad is making dinner, that bastard has the audacity to ask me what he should make.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I make dinner every night, but of course I'm going to ask you because I want to know what kind of mood you're in. You know, are you in a soup mood or are you in a different kind of mood for some other food or a burrito mood or whatever? Exactly. Yeah. Because when I guess wrong, I'm like, how's dinner? You're like, it's fine. I'm like, no. You know, so yeah, of course you're going to ask. And then she says, and then when he's taking them to daycare, he asked me, what a son of a bitch. He asked me what he needs to put in their lunches. That's kind of a silly complaint, obviously.
I am the project manager of this home and I need you to do more. And he looked at me and he said, okay, just tell me what to do. Right? Every woman has heard this. Just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And I said, okay.
No, not every woman has heard that.
Right.
Because a lot of women go to their husbands with complaints.
Right.
And they're like, oh, that sucks.
Right. Yeah. She says, so I am the project manager of this house. I am in charge of everything and have too much mental load and it's burdening me down. I need you to do more. And she says, and of course, he says what all men say. Okay, what can I do to help?
What can I do to help you, dear?
No, that's not what they all say. No, I'm sure probably a lot of them, and she's mentioned this in other videos, you know, who have difficult jobs and maybe he's working a 12-hour day. Apparently he's an electrical lineman. So he's up there, you know, on the power lines and it's a difficult, dangerous job. Apparently it's one of the most dangerous jobs in the US. A lot of men die doing it every year. And so, you know, you could easily imagine a man like that coming home, you know, to her saying, I need you to do more, you know, and apparently she works like from home and she's doing this consultation stuff and yet she's still sending her kids to daycare. So, you know, it's like, I can't imagine that she's just that so burdened that, you know, when he comes home, she just has to like say, I need you to do more. And for him to be able to respond, or for him to respond and say, okay, what can I do to help?
Mm-hmm.
That's good for him, you know,
After
because
already working a 12-hour shift
I mean,
at a crazy job.
a crazy dangerous job. He easily could have looked at her.
When I get home after a 12-hour shift from my crazy job,
right.
you ask nothing from me. And
That's true.
thank you.
Exactly. Yes. Because again, I work from home,
Yes.
you know, and I have a relatively easy job, whereas you're a nurse and you have a very demanding and very difficult job. And so, yeah, when you come home, I'm just taking care of everything. I'm not going to, when you come home, I'm not going to be like, my mental load, I need you to do more. I'm not going to do that to you, you know? And so for him.
But if you did, I would help you.
That's true. I mean, honestly, yeah. But in his case, like, he very easily could have said, I almost died today at work, you know, or, you know, it was very difficult. Like, I just want to come home and relax. I mean, I can help with one or two things, okay, but like, chill, woman. He easily could have said that, but actually his answer was, okay, what can I do to help? So it's like, how are you still complaining, woman?
You know, something that would make my life easier is if in the mornings when I came downstairs with the 4 kids, because I do mornings by myself, the dishwasher was emptied, the dishes were put away, and the trash was taken out. That would make my life so much easier, because when I've got the 4 kids running around and the baby crying, I can't be looking for their favorite water bottle in the dishwasher. I just need to know it's clean.
Relatable. That's fine. Okay. She's like, okay, I got all this going on in the morning. If you could just do these couple things, that would really help me.
Right. So she's the project manager, and she delegates tasks.
Yeah.
And the husband is cool with it and like, great, let's do it.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. That sounds like a good setup.
Sure. It's fine. That's fine. So where's the issue exactly? What is it?
And he said, yeah, of course. What? Yeah, I'll do that. That's no problem. And so, of course, he does it. But then I have to remind him, and then he forgets. And then I have to remind him again. And there was this one morning where I woke up and I went to put something in the trash and it was overflowing. And I went to get my son's water bottle and it was in the dishwasher with all the other clean dishes. And I felt...
What was that look?
Nothing. It's just, so the water bottle's clean. That's a plus.
Right, exactly.
I felt so disrespected and unseen and unvalued at that point in time. And I remember texting my husband being like, what happened? Like, why didn't you do this? And he said, sorry, I was running late for work. And I remember thinking, oh my God, he doesn't see me, because what he's done has now made me late for work. And he doesn't care about that. He doesn't care about the impact on me. And he doesn't see.
I mean, he apologized, so I think he does care. And it sounds like
that's a stretch.
He does do most of the things you ask most of the time.
Right.
I mean, not everybody's going to be perfect. I mean, I'm happy, like more than happy, if you do the things that I ask of you 90% of the time.
Right. Or even, you know, less. I mean,
honestly, because those are just things that help me.
Right.
I'm not reliant on you to unload the dishwasher. I'm capable of doing it myself. Right. But it is nice that you do that, and it really does help me be more efficient. So, I mean,
it's difficult to relate to this woman, because it's like she just keeps describing this amazing man. And yet she says that this is why I consider divorcing my husband. And you're just waiting for the point where
because he's 90% perfect, not 100% perfect?
Yeah, exactly. You keep waiting for the point where she's going to give a real, like, actual legitimate reason. And it's not happening.
On paper, he's perfect.
Yeah.
But behind closed doors, he's beating me.
Right. Where's the legit thing? Yeah, exactly.
Where is the thing?
Right. Behind closed doors.
Why you're divorcing your husband.
You know, let's let her say why she's about to say, this is what got me there. So she says, he doesn't see me. He doesn't realize, he doesn't care that I had to be late for work, which it kind of sounds like he did care. He said, sorry, I was running late. Like, you know, what do you want me to do? You know, but then also she said, because he didn't do the dishes or whatever, I felt unvalued, disrespected, you know, and all these things. And then
how every single thing in our home happens because I ask him to do it, or because I do it myself, or because I planned and organized it.
That reminds me, I believe the title of this video is that she says a woman's love language is to not have to ask. So that's her big deal. Like, I don't want to have to ask you to do the dishes. I don't want, and I don't want to have to tell you, you know, what to put in their lunches. Like,
I just want you to read my mind. All right.
Yeah. So, I mean, seems to me like possibly her big issue here is just communication. She just doesn't want to communicate what her needs are. She just wants him to know it.
the diaper bag is full because I filled it, right? I put the wipes in there. And I felt so frustrated. And I remember thinking, what's the point? What's the point of doing this with someone else? I might as well just do it alone. And it's not because my husband didn't love me or he did anything to me. And it's not because I didn't love him.
Okay, then stop. Just stop. Just stop. Like, to get to that point over these petty issues, that's insane. That's wild. And that really leads us to the main point of why we made this video. And that is because there's going to be a lot of people who go to videos like this or who are searching for answers, you know, and there is some
searching for an excuse to get a divorce.
Exactly.
When they really should actually reframe their concerns or maybe communicate with their spouse better or just do something different in their life to fix the actual problems. Because it sounds like her husband isn't the actual problem.
Right.
It's just that he's not meeting her unsaid expectations.
Right. Or even the expectations that she did say, but that are a little bit unrealistic, you know. It's unrealistic for you to ask your husband, hey, I need you to do these chores and make sure you get him done all the time when he's got a job and he's got stuff he's got to do. And sorry, I'm running late for work.
And he's taking the kids to daycare and he's cooking dinner when he gets home.
Right. Exactly. It's a little bit unrealistic for her to expect perfection 100% of the time and for her to see anything less than 100% perfection in the chores and
as disrespect.
As disrespect.
Right.
Yeah. That I don't think this woman understands what disrespect really is.
Right.
You know, because every time that she brought a concern to him, he was very respectful.
Right.
You know, and what can I do to help? What can I do? You know, and
it's not like he was on his way out the door while late for work and he's like, hold on. And he goes back to the dishwasher full of clean dishes and pulls out the kid's clean cup and writes, fuck you on it and puts it back.
That would be disrespectful.
That would be disrespect.
Right. Yeah. I don't think this woman knows what that is. Or you know, even in, you know, a more practical term, something that, you know, if we're all jokes aside, he very easily just could have said, woman, stop. Like, I've got enough on my plate. Chill. You know, leave me alone with that. Stop nagging me. He easily could have said that.
Yeah, that would be disrespectful.
You know, yeah. I mean,
not be the right response.
To
your spouse coming to you saying, I'm so overwhelmed, I need help.
Right, exactly. Yeah, but he didn't do that. He just didn't do that. So, you know, that's really the main point of what we're getting at here. And the whole purpose of this video is to help people to understand when you're in some kind of crisis in your marriage, and anybody who is considering divorce, you're in a crisis.
Right. That's a crisis.
You're in a marital crisis.
Regardless of what led up to that, if it's like a good reason or maybe not a good reason, or
which
you know,
for
if there
sure
really is a problem with your spouse, or if it's just a problem just with your life not functioning optimally, then
you have to understand, you have to really put this into perspective. Okay, so what kind of crisis are we having?
Right.
You know, and so for this lady in particular, she needs to recognize, okay, we're in a marital crisis because I'm over here considering divorce.
Right.
Now, whether or not you got to that point for valid reasons, or for justified reasons, for reasons that make sense, for reasons that are valid, it doesn't matter.
Right. It's still a crisis.
Address the issue.
It has to be addressed.
Address the issue. Why are we here? Why are we having a crisis? And for her, she knows the reason why.
Right.
And it's because she says, I'm too much mental load. I'm just stressed too much.
Well, yeah. And that's the answer. The answer is, my husband didn't do this. My husband didn't do this. The answer is, I feel stressed and overwhelmed with my role.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you make that better?
Right. So, I mean, it begs the question, what has she done to lower her own stress? Because, I mean, it's very likely, just you could tell from this woman's personality, it's very likely that she just has a lot of mental load and a lot of stress because she's not
neurotic.
Good. She's not good at dealing with this shit.
Right.
You know, I mean, what could she do in her own personal life to lower her stress? Is she getting enough sleep? Is she exercising? Does she have good nutrition?
I mean,
you know, does she have hobbies and things outside of the kids and everything else? Like, what is she doing to regulate her stress levels?
Well, it's going to be hard for people to think about that, like in her situation, because in her mind, she's already at her limit with all the things she can do.
Right.
The problem is she's trying to control too much and micromanage too much.
Right.
It's like,
delegate.
Like, okay, so the kids need to take water to daycare.
Mm-hmm.
How old is your kid? If you have four kids,
at least the oldest is, and he's got to be 5.
Five.
Right.
why don't we start teaching that kid some responsibilities? Like, hey, son, your water bottle is going to be clean in the dishwasher every day. Get it out and put water in it so you can take it to daycare. Get your backpack ready.
Yeah.
And then, you know, if your kid makes mistakes, then that's a learning opportunity. Like, okay, this is why we have this system in place, these things you need to do in the morning, because if you don't, then you're thirsty at daycare later, and that sucks for you. So let's get better at doing the things you need to be responsible for. I think that's a perfectly appropriate task for a 5-year-old.
Absolutely.
And, you know, kids, they like to learn. They like to be independent and take care of their own things if you let them.
Right.
And don't just helicopter over them all the time.
Yeah. And we could definitely do, I mean, a whole separate video just on parenting and not allowing your kids to, you know, just really over-parenting, and how there's too many people who just have to do every little thing for their kid. And it's like, you need to teach them how to be humans.
Yeah, you
need to teach them to take care of themselves.
People are over-parenting in some areas and under-parenting in others.
Right, absolutely. Yeah. But what we're trying to illustrate here is that there's a strong likelihood that the problem is not your husband, Paige.
It's just,
it could be a combination of things. It could be all kinds of stuff. Maybe her work, whatever it is that she does, is stressing her out, along with, you know, just all these other factors. It's not just that your husband didn't do the fucking dishes, okay? That's not the only problem. You know, and for her to place all of that blame on him and say, I consider divorcing him because he disrespected me and devalued and blah, blah, blah. It's like,
she said, what's the point of
doing this with him? I could just do this myself.
Right.
Which is insane.
So you're going to do all that you're doing that's already stressing you out. Plus, you're going to take the kids to daycare, and you're going to
cook like he was doing. And you're going to be the provider.
And you're going to make all the money and live in the place you want to live in. Like, you can't do all that by yourself.
Yeah. Basically, everything she's saying here is insane. Like, completely unrealistic for so many reasons, you know? For her to blame her husband for everything and to say the things that he was doing are legitimate reasons that we should get a divorce, that's insane. And for her to even talk about divorce without considering the ramifications of that, I'd just be better at doing this all by myself.
Your kids wouldn't be better off.
Hell no. That's
Their
horrible.
life would be in chaos for years.
So because of this issue with the chores, you want to blow up your family?
Right.
You want to destroy this relationship that you guys have had for so many years, and that you've spent so much time and effort and work in, and that you have invested your whole life into, and that your kids, you know, are depending on. That we don't. I mean, we can, and we will.
And then go find another perfect man
who also does all the chores 100% of the time. What are you looking for?
That's not even going to exist, because any man that you find after you get divorced is probably also going to have kids. I mean, you have 4 kids. That guy's going to have kids and his own stuff going on. Like, what's the goal here? To get divorced and, like, find someone that's 100% perfect?
Right. It's insane. Yeah. Completely unrealistic. So, you know, if Paige came to me, you know, I'm a relationship coach. If she came and booked a call with me, and we're on Skype, and she just said all of these things to me, I mean, my answer to her would be, Paige, you guys are obviously in a marital crisis, and you came to the right place because that's what I specialize in, okay? I want to deal in couples who are hurting and lost and who are about ready to quit. And it sounds like you just told me, you know, you're ready to give up because of these different issues. So, you know, I wouldn't say your issues are bullshit and these are terrible reasons to consider. No, I wouldn't say that to her, of course.
No. Everybody's crisis is...
It's their crisis, and it's, you know, it needs to be dealt with either way, you know.
Important thing in their life.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And so the first thing that I would help her to understand is, what kind of crisis are you in? And there's really only 2 types of crises that I found in my time as a coach. And that is a crisis of faith and a crisis of trust. So we'd have to first diagnose what kind of crisis are you in. And a crisis of trust is very simple. That means that you do not trust your spouse.
Right.
And when
you're in danger.
Yes.
Or they're doing things that are harmful to you, your kids,
or to themselves. Yes. Yeah.
So
you can't. Good.
Your environment is not safe because of some behaviors, something your spouse is doing.
Right. Right. And that means basically that you can't trust that they have your best interests at heart.
Right.
Like, you don't know if they might possibly harm you themselves or people around them. You don't know if maybe they would choose something that would benefit only themselves. It's some kind of selfish choice, even if it is a detriment to your family. Even
like,
if it hurts the family.
Like having a gambling problem.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. You know, that's a legitimate trust issue. That's a legitimate concern when you don't know if they have your best interests at heart.
Yeah.
That's not what she's describing.
Right.
In any way, shape, or form. And really, the only time that I would, you know, say, okay, this is a genuine concern that, you know, it's possible you might need to consider divorcing, is if they're in that kind of issue, you know, trouble. That kind of crisis
of trust.
Yes, that kind of crisis actually can still be worked through in certain situations.
Right.
You know,
but some boundaries.
Yeah, and that's
have to be in place to keep everyone safe.
That's a whole very long and difficult path to go on, because you have to rebuild trust from the ground up, and it's a long and difficult road. It can be done, but it's hard.
Right.
Most people are not in that situation. Most people, when they're experiencing a crisis in their marriage, which a crisis again is just, I'm considering divorce.
Mm-hmm.
If you're there, most of those people, 90% of them, are in a crisis of faith. And a crisis of faith, that you still trust your spouse. Like, you believe that they do have your best interest at heart. They love you. They want good things for you.
Right.
But you no longer believe that you're supposed to be together. You're not sure anymore. So you're doubting. When you're doubting, you're in a crisis of faith. And that's what she said. I consider, why am I even doing this? Maybe I'd be better off alone. That's a crisis of faith. She doesn't believe that they're supposed to be together, that, you know, whether maybe that they're meant to be together or whatever, but at least that this is what we should be doing. We should be married and working through this and sticking together. And this is what is good for me and all of us. She doesn't know that anymore. That's a crisis of faith. And there's only two reasons why you'd end up there. And that is because either you have been involved in some kind of tragedy. So some kind of tragic event has happened where...
that was outside of either of you.
Yeah, it's nobody's fault. You know, you lost a business, you lost a loved one. I mean, you lost a child, something terrible happened.
Like our friends who lost both of their parents at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And they just went through like a year or two where they were just both depressed and just trying to survive, basically.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and that kind of thing does break up marriages.
Yeah.
And it's really a tragedy, and it's really sad when that happens.
Right.
You know,
it's hard to get through it even individually. So to get through it together as a couple is just difficult for people. Yeah.
So that's not her.
Right.
She didn't describe any kind of tragic event that is just so stressful and so terrible that it's like destroying their relationship. She didn't describe that. She didn't describe a crisis of trust. So what is it then? It's a crisis of faith that has been caused by spousal failure. They are failing at being she's failing at being a good wife, in my opinion. And apparently in some ways he's failing her. And so they're just not good at being married. They're not good. They're not doing a good job of helping each other in the ways they need to be helped. Just basically,
it sounds like just more communication is needed, honestly, because she has these expectations and he may not even know that he's not meeting these expectations, but also she needs to understand, okay, I'm not going to be perfect all the time.
Right, absolutely.
You have to give me some grace.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I have to give you grace because I am not perfect.
Yes.
I mean, I'm very micromanaging in particular and can do most of the things most of the time, but I still screw it up.
Right.
Every once in a while.
Yeah. Yeah, where's the patience here?
Right.
You know? I mean, you have to be patient with each other.
And work together as a team.
Yeah.
And realize, oh, he was late. Right. So I get that he wasn't able to do this. That's okay. I can do it today. Because...
I mean, we're patient with each other.
That's just life.
Yeah. Not only in just when one of us fails to complete expectations, you know. Of course, that's simple and easy to be patient with. You know, oh, you didn't do the dishes or you didn't do this.
Yeah.
You know, that's an easy thing to be patient with. We're patient with each other even beyond that when there is some kind of like actual disrespect or something going on.
Right. Like when I'm getting volatile at you because of something that I'm sure isn't your fault. You're being very patient with me.
Mm-hmm.
to try to help me understand life.
Yeah, when you have actually legitimately been disrespectful, rude even, you know? And I'll still be patient with you.
You take it upon yourself to be the patient one and be like, okay, this is what you're doing right now. That is unacceptable.
Right.
Like, let's come back to this.
Right.
But not with volatility.
Turn yourself a little bit so they can see you. Yeah, I mean, I'll be assertive with you, you know, and I'll say this isn't cool, you know, and we'll deal with it. But I'm not gonna, of course, I'm not going to be, you know, a walking mat or whatever the term is. You know, I'm not gonna let you walk all over me if you're being volatile, just in our relationship.
And I wouldn't want you to, because I don't want to be that way.
Right.
Because you don't deserve it.
Yeah, and we did a test at one point, the personality test, and you know, you were in one of the top percentile for volatility, and I was in like the bottom. And of course, it's a long story, but I mean, I grew up in a home of a lot of volatility and anger and abuse and even everything.
Right.
And so I learned how to not do that. I didn't want to be that way. And so in our relationship, you're very volatile. I'm not.
You're very intentional about not being.
Yes. Yeah. And so, but you know, you would think, since I'm not angry with you, I don't have to have patience with you when you're doing that. And I could say, you know,
I mean, yeah, you should have very high standards for how I treat you, because you treat me with just the utmost patience.
Right. And I do have high standards for the way you treat me, but I'm also patient and forgiving. And as long as we can have a discussion about it, and as long as there's an apology and we just move on, and I don't care, it's fine. It's no big deal.
Because I am going to mess up. But as long as I'm still working on it and still working on it and still working on it, I mean, you still wouldn't rather be with anyone else.
No, of course not. I would never think, okay, so she was volatile with me again, and we've talked about this many times.
Right.
I don't want to have to deal with your volatility and with you being rude and disrespectful to me, and you were short with me, and how many times have we talked about this? I would be better doing this on my own, you know? I'm never going to get to that point, you know? And that's the thing. One thing she has to realize is that there are certain marital issues that are going to be there forever.
Right.
Because it's just a character flaw and we all have our own flaws, you know? We all have our own weaknesses.
And if you marry somebody else, they're going to have their own flaws.
They have flaws.
Either way, if you're starting over with somebody else, you're going to have to learn those flaws and learn to adapt to them and learn to put systems in place to help them succeed more often.
Right.
Regardless of who you're married to, you're going to have to do that. So why give up on the relationship you've already established?
Right.
And the family you've already built.
That's true. And I like what you said there. You want to give them a chance to succeed more often, not 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And as long as that more often is continuously climbing, and even if it's staying stagnant for a little while, that's okay. You know, as long as the attitude of the other person is, my bad, I messed up again.
Exactly.
I'll keep working on it.
As long as they're still willing to work on it. If they shut down and they're no longer willing to work on things anymore,
I mean,
then you have a bigger issue.
That's a problem. Yeah, and that's even to the point where you might have a trust issue. Where if I'm telling you, love, you can't be so disrespectful to me. You're being rude and short with me again. I need you to chill on that. And if your answer is fuck off, you know, then we have a really big problem.
Right.
That's that's even a trust issue. I need to consider myself. I'm like, what is going on with her? I'm giving her a valid concern about the way that she treats me and how it makes me feel. And she told me to fuck off? What's going on here? I don't even know if I can trust you at that point. We might actually have a crisis of trust.
Like, what else is going on if that's my response to you?
What's going on in your heart and in my mind?
Whom I adore.
Right, exactly. If I give you a genuine concern about the way you're treating me, you tell me to fuck off, then we have a problem.
Right.
But you would never, ever do that to me, you know? And, you know, if I tell you that there's, you know, a concern with the way that you're treating me, you know, you're going to be apologetic. And even if you are getting better and you're not volatile with me 70% of the time, and that percentage goes up 0.5% and 1%, you're getting to 72% of the time you're not volatile with me. And then, you know, a year from now, you're at 73%, you know, like, that's good. I'm fine with that, you know, because I can't expect perfection from you and you can't expect perfection from me. And we all have our own weaknesses. And there's going to be things that we fail in from time to time. And that's not something to consider divorce over.
Right.
You know, and for her to get to that point, that's troubling to me. Because when you throw out that D word, automatically you are conditioning your spouse and manipulating them in a way that they are going to start making decisions based on, oh, fuck, I better be careful with what I do here, because when the last time I didn't do the dishes, she used the D word on me. Like, I got to be careful with that. And so they're no longer comfortable in the relationship. They're no longer able to relax. And instead of being able to make calm, cool, collected decisions based on what is best for me, what is best for my wife, what's best for the family, and be able to make relaxed, calm decisions like that, they're stressed now when it comes to decision making about.
And maybe even to the point that he feels like he has to be a yes man all the time.
Exactly.
She just keeps piling responsibilities on him, and he's like, yes, yes.
And then eventually what's going to happen, he's going to get resentful.
He's going to get resentful, and he's going to fail more because he can't take on all the responsibilities she has for him.
And then she's going to view that as disrespect.
Right.
And it's going to pile on to the problem.
Right. They need to have a relationship where they can sit down and communicate, and she can be like, okay, I'm really overwhelmed. Can you help me? And he's like, okay, well, you know, what things are overwhelming you? Well, this, and that. He's like, okay, well, I can take care of this thing and this thing. I'll help you with those things. But if he's just a yes man all the time and takes on all these responsibilities.
Because he's worried that she's going to threaten to divorce him.
Right.
That's a problem. That's manipulation.
He doesn't have like the freedom to say, you know, actually, I think that maybe that's a little too much. And maybe we should do things a little bit differently at the house. You know, maybe we should give the
kids need to help out, and maybe you need to go work out, you know, to just get your stress out, you know.
Yeah, maybe.
And we do that because like every week
you need more time for your own hobbies.
Every week we have what we call Lovey Conference, you know, that just because that's what we call each other, but you know, it's a family conference. It's a marriage conference. Yes. And this is something that we discuss in our online courses, of course, and within the book that's coming out. But when you have a conference every week where you are determining, okay, this is what you're going to do, this is what I'm going to do, this is what my schedule looks like, this is what, you know.
You're going to take the kids to school this day. I'm going to cook dinner this day.
And it's all about helping.
I'm going to make their lunches. You're going to make sure you ask them if they got their lunch.
Right. It's all about helping the both of us to be productive and to optimize, you know, the roles that we're doing. And that's another thing we talk about, which is roles. You know, determining who's doing what within our household. And that is a legitimate thing that she's talking about. It's not about mental load.
Well, yeah.
And it's definitely not about equity. That's a big thing that she talks about, which is that we're completely 100% even and equal in the distribution of this. That's bullshit. You're never going to have that.
Right.
You don't need to be concerned with equity. You need to be concerned with optimization. You know, who is going to be, you know, specialized in this? So who's going to be the optimal choice to do this task and this task?
I mean, you together are one functioning household.
Yeah, so exactly.
You're
one person, you know, you're one being, you know, and you're one unit. So there's no such thing as equity because we're supposed to be a team and we're the same unit.
We need to divide the tasks.
That's like saying, is there equity in my basketball team? Like, no, you're all functioning in one unit. You do everything together.
But you each have different roles.
You win together and you lose together.
You bring to the table.
Yes.
So it's just about finding how each one of us can function optimally.
Right.
In our roles. Mm-hmm. And that helps us work together as one cohesive household.
Absolutely.
So I think a lot of what she's saying here about workload and project managing and delegating tasks is valid.
And I could see why she got millions and millions of views. Yes. It is resonating with some people, but in a bad way, because she's talking about these things as though it's a crisis of trust.
Right.
As though, look, when you have too much mental load, this could 100% destroy your marriage. And it's like, you're not there yet.
People don't need any more excuses to get divorced.
They don't need it. Exactly.
I think just her mistake in this video was saying she wanted to was considering divorce because of this.
Right.
Because that's not a solution.
No.
Mm-mm. It's not a solution to the problem if there's no trust issues involved.
Right.
The solutions to the problem could have been she could have gotten to that just by having a conversation with her husband about how she's feeling, what she needs help with, and seeing how he responds. Because it sounds like he's a pretty reasonable guy and willing to help. And then they could figure out together, okay, we're going to change how we delegate tasks in the house. We're going to change our roles. We're going to change how, instead of me making dinner every night and asking you what you want. We'll just plan it every week.
Yes.
And
that's something that can easily be resolved.
Stuff ahead of time. I mean,
that's what we do in our weekly conference, which again is something we teach in the book and something that we teach in our online courses. But, you know, we do our best to help reduce stress and friction in our lives.
Yeah, because if we have stress, we're going to take it out on each other because we spend the most time together. So let's reduce stress so that we can just enjoy our time.
Right. And so for us, what that looks like even today, on this day right now, is that means that you took the kids to school this morning.
Yes.
And then I'm going to go pick them up.
Yep.
And then I'm going to spend time with them when they have these various activities and stuff. I'm going to do that. You know, and then tonight you are going to jujitsu so that you can go choke people so that you don't want to choke me. You know, we've talked about this many times, but that is your sanctuary. Obviously, I love jujitsu as well. I'm just injured, so I can't get back on the mats. But you know, we have to allocate and plan for you to be able to do that. We have to make time for it
because if you've done volatility.
Exactly.
And then that's just better for.
And it just helps with your stress levels and just everything. You know, I think this bitch needs to be on the mats. Honestly, you know, go choke someone.
She seems kind of high strung.
Yeah, I think that would maybe relax her a bit. You know,
right.
Do something. Go hit the bag. You know, go lift some heavy weight. She's just got too much stress on her, and the problem is that she's blaming it all on her spouse.
Right. Yeah. Right. Instead of coming up with a creative way to reduce her stress.
Right. A more productive way to do this, the best way for her to have this conversation that she should have originally had with her husband was, you know, she did tell him, okay, I need help. And he said, okay, I'll do it. And then when it didn't happen, her response should not have been, I was considering divorce. Her response should have been, okay, this is the problem. We're still having this issue. This is the way it's making me feel and I'm stressed. What can we do?
Exactly.
You know, and that's another thing about just conflict resolution, again, that you talk about in the book and the courses, which is that when you're having some kind of conflict, work as a team. It's not me versus you. There's no such thing as equity where I'm taking up most of the work. You need to take up some of the work too. It's not about that. It's about we're a team. This is the issue that our team is having. How can we together tackle this issue? Because it's still, you know, we've talked about it before, but it's still kind of an issue. And we do that even when it comes to, again, your volatility. You know, we'll talk about, okay, what can we do? And it's, okay, you need to make sure you're getting your ass on the mats and go to jujitsu. You need to make sure that, you know, you're getting enough sleep and that, you know, before bed, you're maybe journaling, you know, and you know, spend some time in prayer, whatever you need to do to just kind of put your thoughts together. And, you know, we talk about that, but together as a team, us versus the problem. I'm not over here saying you're being volatile, you need to stop. And it's not me versus you.
Or we're going to get a divorce.
That's nuts. That's nuts. That's too far.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's just finish the rest of this video here.
But because I felt so taken advantage of in our relationship and this dynamic, it doesn't happen by accident, right? It's not like my husband did it to me, but we've been raised in this society that tells men and women who they should be in marriages and what it looks like to be a good mom versus a good dad. And we know the bar for moms is way up here and the bar for dads is way down here.
So first of all, she's just talking about societal expectations of, you know, a man and a woman's role within the home. First of all,
which
irrelevant.
Who cares?
Who gives a shit?
What anybody else thinks about how you run your household.
Right. I mean, for instance, you know, I cook all the meals in my home and, you know, you cook some occasionally, but we have very specific reasons for that. Obviously, you're very busy with work and you're busy being our homeschool parent, you know, on the days that the kids are homeschooled because they go half and half, homeschool and then regular school. It's a hybrid model school. But anyway, I'm not going to ask you, hey, I know you just got home from work. Can you do dinner? I'm not going to ask you, hey, I know you just got done with a big school day with the kids. Can you also I'm not going to do that. You know, and even if, you know, society would expect that it's the woman who cooks, I really don't give a fuck. I don't care.
Yeah, I'm sure my 100-year-old great grandma would look at our household and be like, that's not how things are supposed to be.
Right, because you for instance, were the breadwinner for many, many years now, and it's not until, you know, even recently that I have any kind of income. That's because I was working on these courses and writing a book and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
You know, and, you know, we do things a little bit differently in just the specific chores and tasks that we have in this home. You know, things that maybe would typically be considered, you know, man or woman's job. We do things a little differently, but don't really care because we don't give a shit about societal norms or what's expected of us by family or friends or even the traditions that we grew up with in our homes. None of that matters at all. The only thing that matters is, again, optimization and prioritization, like specialization, like who can specialize in this and get good at it, and who's going to accomplish this more, or who's going to accomplish, who's going to do a better job at this. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, look at the fruits of our labor, like how we divide things. I mean, we have a great relationship. Our kids are awesome. And so I feel like that's way more important than just following the formula for who should be doing what.
Yeah, exactly. And so what she's saying here is that, men aren't expected to have to do a lot in the home, and women are expected to do a lot more. Who gives a shit? None of that matters. You just have to determine what's best for your home.
Right.
And you have to have those conversations with your spouse.
Right.
So I guess she is kind of making a good point there that expectations shouldn't matter if she's trying to make that point. But anyway.
And we fell into these norms. We fell into these roles in our family, despite the fact that we never wanted to. And I'm lucky. And I say lucky because I have a partner who I know loves me.
Just call him your husband, please.
And wants me to be happy and was willing and able to change. And so we did the work to figure out what equity looked like in our relationship. And
also
to figure out what equity looked like in our relationship. And I can tell you now.
So she says he was willing and able to change. So I'm lucky because he changed for me. Okay.
Yeah.
What the fuck did you do to change, if anything?
I would like to know the answer.
Right, exactly. Because she's not describing a perfect relationship where she's done everything perfectly and he's done nothing, and he's the one who's failing. That's not what we're seeing here, And then she says, and we did the work. It sounds like what she's saying is, and he did the work to do whatever the fuck I told him to do. That's what it's saying here. And this is just a terrible dynamic.
I can tell you now, 3 years later, that we are happier than ever. Our kids are thriving. Our home runs like a well-oiled machine. And that took a lot of work. I want to say it took like 18 months to get there.
18 months of me nagging him until he did what I wanted.
And it was well worth it. But it is not uncommon. And so if your wife is coming to you and she's saying, I'm burnt out by the mental load and I need you to do more, she's not just saying that because she wants you to do more chores. She's saying that because truly it can hurt your relationship. It can ruin your marriage if you do not participate in an equitable way in your home. And so what does that look like?
I was with her until she said equitable.
But that also wasn't the problem because he was participating the whole time. And he never told her, no, I can't help you with that.
Exactly.
So that's not the issue.
That's not even the problem. Yeah.
Right.
But it is a legitimate concern when, if your spouse comes to you and says, I'm stressed out by all the things that I'm having to do at the home, I need more help. And if the response is, I don't care, yes.
That's a problem.
Yes, that is a problem that could hurt your marriage. Exactly.
Yeah, but her marriage is still together and strong because her husband was able, he was saying, yes, I see that you're having trouble and I'm going to help you.
Right. And also for her to say, we're having trouble, I need help with it, or I'm stressed and I need help with this. That's also, that's a valid and legitimate question to ask. But for her to say, I need equitable, exactly equal, you can't do that. That's an unrealistic expectation. That's not a conversation worth even trying. So we'll move on.
What does that look like? What does it look like to change these dynamics? Well, we need to really assess in our homes what the work looks like. Because in most homes, the data supports this, women do a disproportionate amount of the work. They just do. That's
fine. That's understandable. And for her to say, and we need to have conversations about who's doing what, sure. Okay, that's fine. I agree.
They do more of the cooking and the cleaning and the laundry and the childcare while also working full time. And men have more time for things like their hobbies, like golf, for example, or just working out, running a marathon, right? And so we need to have hard conversations about what our time looks like, what our labor in the home looks like, what is invisible labor. We have to talk about these things. And when we don't.
Agreed. That's just, again, working through the roles. Who does what?
When we first started doing our Levy conferences, we literally made a list of every task. The dishes, the laundry, cleaning the espresso machine, taking the kids to school, all the tasks. And then we went through, we're like, who's the best equipped to do this on each day?
Right. And it wasn't about how do we evenly distribute these tasks?
Right.
That's bullshit. It was about how do we together as a team tackle all of these things optimally.
Right.
That's a completely different conversation. Completely different.
Right.
The alternative is that you no longer have a marriage, or you don't have a happy one at least. And so I share this story because I don't think
the alternative to having this conversation is you don't have a marriage. Again, this is not that kind of issue. We still have not gotten to the point where
it doesn't warrant an ultimatum.
Yes, we're still just talking about a crisis of faith where she doubts whether she should be with him or not. That's not. We're not there. It's not a crisis of trust.
If you stop drinking, or if you don't stop drinking because you have a drinking problem, I'm going to have to leave you.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
It's not safe here.
Right.
That's an ultimatum that makes sense.
Right. Exactly.
Because there's a safety concern involved.
Right. Not if you don't do more chores.
Yeah. If you don't do 100% of the things that I assign to you 100% of the time, we are going to get a divorce.
Yeah, you're just married to a psychopath at that point. Maybe you should just say, okay, let's do that. Let's get a divorce. I say that jokingly, but anyway.
I think I'm alone in this experience, and I want people to know that there's hope, and that if you have
Was that a question?
a willing and able partner, you can change this.
There's hope.
There's hope. There is. There is hope for people who are in Paige's situation. And it is very simple to work through this kind of issue where, it seems as though you guys don't have a good, I'm not going to say even, but you don't have a good distribution of who's doing what in the home. Absolutely, there's hope for you. I mean, that's a very simple
everybody
process.
Struggles with.
Yeah, that's a very simple process. You make the list, you see who's going to, you figure out all of what we have to do in the house. You see, then you assign and you agree to who's going to be the best at doing what. And then you work through it and you practice it and you specialize in it. You get good at it over time. Yeah, there's hope.
And you know your spouse's roles. And then sometimes if they fail, you can either give them a friendly reminder or pick up for their slack, and they'll help you with something else later.
Yeah.
Because it's equitable in that we're both working towards the same goal and we're helping each other work towards just having a good functioning household and family.
Right.
I mean, that's equity to me, not like we do 50% of every single task.
Right. No. She says, you can change this.
You can absolutely change this dynamic.
Okay. Yes, I agree. It can be changed. There is hope. And this is not something that is the end of the world at all. So, there's hope for folks out there.
Like once you figure it out and your household is running so much smoother and there's a lot less stress, there's just a lot more time for fun stuff.
Right.
And I have to tell the kids this sometimes. I'm like, you keep doing this thing that is bad, and it makes me have to get on to you. And I don't like to do that. I just want to have fun together.
Right.
So if you just do the things you're supposed to do, then we can have more fun.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. And in the same way, in our relationship, when we find that there are stressors and issues with the schedule, issues with the chores and everything else, we just have to discuss it and say, look, there's this problem within the schedule, within the chores, within the tasks, and it's causing stress. And then we're not able to do all the things we want to do. And that definitely does happen.
Right.
Where, if we haven't had our conference and we don't have the week planned out and we're just winging it and do it, it's chaos. And inevitably things are falling through the cracks and we don't have as much time. We're late everywhere we go. Like there's problems. And yeah, that's a legitimate concern and a conversation that can be had. And really the answer for people who are in Paige's crisis, who are having a similar crisis is this: delegate your roles optimally. Don't worry about equity, worry about optimization and specialization. Number one, delegate. And that can be between you two and also again between the kids.
Yeah.
And then lastly, it's you need to have a conference every week.
Yeah.
You need to plan your weeks because, for instance, maybe dad was late because of something that they could have planned around so that he wasn't running late for work so that thing could have gotten done. you know, and if you're planning each week and then also assessing the prior week
why
and saying, where did we mess up?
we fail last
Where do we
week?
mess up? Why didn't that one thing get done? And it's like,
Right.
oh, well, this happened, this happened. It's like, okay, what can we do moving forward to adjust and fix so that that doesn't happen?
What new system can we put in place to increase our rate of success?
Exactly. And so if you're doing that every week, you're planning ahead, so you have a plan to make sure that everything runs smoothly. And then, you know, at the end of that week, you look back on it and say, okay, where did we mess up? Where did we make a mistake? Where was there friction?
Right.
Where was there frustration? Where was there stress? And then, you know, moving forward, what are we going to do to eliminate that as best we can?
Right.
You know, that's the answer for people like Paige. And if she ever, you know, someone like her was to, you know, call me and say, hey, this is my problem, that would be my diagnosis. So thanks for being with us today. Have a good one.